Hey everybody, welcome. It is week 7, and that means we're really almost exactly, excuse me, halfway through the semester. So it is really important if there is something that you have not done yet, that you have not turned in yet, that has already come due, please make sure that you do that. I also wanted to mention that unless I specifically ask you to, there's usually not a do-over on a particular assignment. A couple of folks have already sent me new versions of the MLA transformation assignment. You don't need to redo that. The comments that are there are for you to learn from, not for you to redo something. So just, learn from it and move on. With that particular assignment, I do think, yeah, I gave you guys some an overview of kind of the most common issues that's in the announcement. So if you have not checked that out, please make sure you do. And in the meantime, we're going to take a quick look at what's going on in week 7. So you have submitted, hopefully, most of you have submitted the annotating sources assignment, where you have taken some of the actual sources that you will be using for your first argument paper, and you have annotated those manually, like taking notes on them. The next step is to then create an annotated bibliography. That is going to be your next assignment. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what that is and where you can go if you want to find a sample that you can look at, things of that nature. There are a lot of good samples out online. You want to make sure whenever you're doing anything related to documentation, format and documentation, that you make sure it's up to date. So the most reputable places to look, of course, are our library, like Sumter's library, but the Purdue OWL online writing lab, Purdue University does a fantastic job at creating up-to-date information. They're kind of considered the industry standard, although I will say that there was one time a few years ago when MLA, I think it was MLA, who had done an update. It might have been APA, but I think it was MLA. Anyway, our library had all of their materials updated before the OWL at Purdue. So our librarians are rock stars and should be treated as such at all given times. I hope you also noticed that our embedded librarian did post an announcement on September 25th. That is Miss Rackley, and she has given you some information there as well. So I'm actually going to open that. Let me go ahead and share the class, and we'll take a look at those as well. So Miss Rackley is our embedded librarian. You can always get help from any of the librarians at Lake Sumter. You don't have to go directly to Miss Rackley, but she is well aware of the course and what is happening in the course. So if you want to go straight to her, that is never a bad idea. This was the announcement that she posted, and she's got links to some of the good databases. Opposing Viewpoints is the #1 database for argumentative papers, which of course is what you're writing. But then she's got some additional information here that you can get help from as well. And of course, her email. You are also able, of course, to contact any of the librarians through the library's website. Now, one of the pages that I wanted to direct your attention back to is the Citation Center. So the way that you get there is if you go to the library's page first, lssc.edu/library, that will take you to the main library page. And then under libraries, the Citation Center is that first yellow button. So this is the one, and we've looked at it before in the videos, but this is the one that has all of the handouts on MLA and APA, but we're not there yet. And I want to point out to you that there is an annotated bibliography template that you can use. So this is the assignment that you're doing this week. This is what it will look like. So please do make use of that template rather than struggling and trying to figure it out on your own. There is almost always something that you can use that will give you access to the right way to do it. So take a look at that. And then this was the announcement that I talked about with the common issues that occurred on the MLA transformation assignment. And I don't want you to feel bad about what if you had some of these issues. Formatted documentation does not come naturally for anybody. It is a struggle to learn. I don't think I truly knew what I needed to know about MLA documentation and formatting until I started teaching it. That's not to say that you can't do it well. You absolutely can, but you do have to know what you need to look up answers for, or where you need to go to get help with that kind of thing. So please take a look over not only those common issues, but also your own particular feedback. But you do not have to redo that. In fact, if you redo it, it's not going to get you any more points. So just be advised about that. So as I mentioned, we're going into week 7. So we've already started working on this paper. We are continuing to work on this paper. So you have technically two assignments this week. You've got the annotated bibliography and an outline of your argumentative essay. So that's what's on tap for this week. And then next week, you're going to have your draft due for your peer review discussion. And that is going to be really important to get a completed draft up there before the deadline next week, because that's how you get help with it. So a lot of people see the word rough draft and think, oh, well, I don't have to be complete yet. I don't have to have it done yet. And I mean, technically you don't. The paper itself is due on October 22nd, but the more complete your draft is, the more help you'll get with it. And so therefore it is important to do that, but we'll talk more about what to do with that draft next week. One of the things that I will mention is that a big part of creating the draft is integrating the research that you're doing in with your own thoughts and ideas. Don't be afraid to actually overtly name your sources and clarify when you are using information that comes from a resource and not just your own thoughts. I'll post some additional information about that as we proceed. But this week we're not quoting and paraphrasing yet. We're working on the outline and the bibliography, annotated bibliography. So I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. All right, so let's go to week 7's module. Let me make that short. For source integration, this will give you a head start on putting the paper itself together, how to integrate your sources. So there's a video along with a PowerPoint that you can use for quick review. And then in your little Seagull, in the handbook, the readings, of course, are not technically required, but this will definitely help you with these particular skills. There's a section R3 and 4 on synthesizing and integrating sources. And then there's also just how to include direct quotations. Sometimes we forget those rules. So E4 and P4 are the sections for that. So definitely make sure you view the video. And I would strongly consider looking at those resources in the little Seagull as well. Then you have, of course, your first assignment, which there's a resource page and then the assignment itself. For the annotated bibliography, there is a link here to a sample. Now, this one, of course, is a student version, so this is probably closer to what yours is going to look like. And then there are additional resources on the page format and the MLA citation format, just to see what you're doing there. Essentially, an annotated bibliography is a list of the sources you plan to use in the paper. You may use more than that. You may not use some of them. When you finally, when you get to actually writing the paper, those may change. But anything that you have found so far, you're going to have a bibliography in alphabetical order with MLA citations on an MLA site formatted page. And you're going to, after each of those citations, you're going to write what's called an annotation. And an annotation is going to really do two things. One is to summarize what the source is about. And the other is to discuss the credibility and usability of that source. So they don't have to be terribly long, but they are typically at least one really good, well-developed paragraph. And you can have those two things in separate if you would prefer to keep them separate. So summary and analysis of the credibility. So for each article or each book or each whatever type source you have, you're going to have those. Remember, most of your research for this paper should be from the library, from the databases, not from the open internet. So keep that in mind. And then, of course, this is where you will go to complete it. It does have that reminder about the sources. You're basically going to use the ones that you had last week for the annotated sources, but if you don't have one from the library databases yet, you absolutely have to have one in this week. And of course, these will play into your argument essay. You can have more than 3. Most people are not going to want to put more than 3 on this assignment because then they have to annotate more than 3, but it really does help you think about how you might want to use the source in the actual paper. So there's no harm in putting other things on it if you have found other sources. So you're going to have the MLA page. There's some links there to the library guides and all that good stuff. The annotation talks about here under each MLA style citation, write a paragraph that includes the following, and you're going to have, like I said, a summary and a discussion of the credibility and relevance. I would have them longer than 4 sentences, but 4 sentences is the minimum. There again is a sample that you can look at. You can use that as a template. And of course, here is the rubric that your grade is going to be determined using. Once you are complete with it, you're going to create this in Word and you're going to upload it. So you're going to click on Start Assignment and you're going to choose the file. Please submit your work in Word format and not as a PDF. I typically do verbal feedback, but with the annotated bibliographies, especially if I need to make notes in Word, I have to have it in a Word format. So please try to remember to do that. And that is the annotated bibliography assignment. All right. So the next item would be the outline. I am not super fussy about outlines, but I do see the value in having you put some thought into how you plan on structuring your paper. And of course, there are a couple of tools here to help you with that. It is an outline. It is not a rough draft. And so it even says outlines that look like rough drafts will lose points. An outline is a list. It is not a bunch of paragraphs. You can write paragraphs within that list if you wanted to go ahead and, like explore what you want to talk about, but it needs to be in outline form. So please make use of those. And then same thing when you are ready to submit it. There's a little structure here. This one gives you some additional resources. There's a video and the PowerPoint and a pointing out to where you can find some supplemental info in the little seagull. And then, of course, finally, you have the assignment. So total 50 points this week. You've got the annotated bibliography, which is worth 30, and the outline, which is worth 20. It is really important for you to get these in as soon as you can because it is part of you getting feedback before the paper. This is one of those assignments that kind of builds into it. So please let me know if you have questions. I think a lot of people have forgotten the fact that we have a Q&A discussion board. Please use it. If you've got questions about this assignment, chances are your classmates do too. And it's much easier and more convenient for me to answer those questions once than 25 times in separate emails. So please make sure that if you have a question about the assignment that's relevant to everyone, that you utilize that Q&A discussion board. It is an often underutilized resource in online classes. So I hope everybody has a great week 7. And like I said, if you need anything, let me know. I'll be around this week.